I could feel the cold sweat running down my spine as I stared at the receipt in my hand, the ink still fresh, but smudging under my shaky fingers. I had 45 seconds. Just 45 seconds before the dessert spoons hit the table, and everything, my life, his life, everything, was about to change forever. But the hardest part? It wasn't just knowing what was going to happen. It was knowing that I was the one who had to make the decision. I could walk away and pretend I didn't hear a thing, forget everything. Or I could do something about it. I glanced around the restaurant, its opulence nearly choking me. The golden walls, the crystal glasses clinking in the background, and the low hum of conversations that never stopped like they knew nothing. But I knew something. Something dark. Something that would kill him if I didn't act. Kong Miho, the man sitting across from me, looked like he owned the world. And in a way, he did. Tall, sharp jawline, his eyes the kind that could pierce through to your very soul, no matter how hard you tried to hide. But he was sitting there unaware. Completely unaware that his fiancée, Maria Costa, had just ordered his death. It wasn't my problem, right? I was just a waitress, doing my job, making sure their drinks were full, that the plates were hot. But when I heard Maria's voice in the wine cellar, speaking in Italian, then switching to Russian, it felt like my world shifted. I should have announced myself, walked out, and acted like nothing was wrong. But I didn't. I stood there, frozen, my breath caught in my chest as I listened to her words, clean shot as soon as he settles. Make it quick. Her words cut through me, and before I even realized what I was doing, my heart was pounding so loudly I thought it might give me away. I knew what had to happen next. I had to warn him. But how? How could I, a nobody, approach him, a king in this world of violence and power, and tell him his fiancée just sold him out? I didn't have time to think it through. I did what any rational person would do in the heat of the moment. I grabbed a receipt from my apron, grabbed my pen, and wrote 7 words that could either save his life or end mine. Your fiancé sold you out. I folded the paper carefully, almost too carefully. The corners were sharp and precise, as if the very act of folding it might protect me from whatever was coming next. And then I walked over to the table, my legs feeling like lead, my heart beating in my throat. As I approached him, my mind went blank. I didn't even know what I was supposed to say. But Miho was already watching me. His gaze locked onto mine, a flicker of recognition, maybe even curiosity. But I didn't have time to second-guess myself. I set the whiskey in front of him with a steady hand. God, I hoped it looked steady. Then I did the one thing every server is told never to do. I touched him. Just for a second. My thumb brushed against the back of his hand, and I slipped the folded receipt under his coaster. I watched his eyes snap to mine. They were darker than I expected, calculating, cold. He didn't flinch, didn't move, but the look in his eyes was unmistakable. He knew. He knew something had shifted. And I felt the weight of it, the weight of what I had just done, and the terror of knowing that everything was about to spiral out of control. The world around us seemed to disappear. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, even the low hum of the music playing softly in the background, it all faded. I could barely hear anything, just the sound of my pulse in my ears, the air thick with the promise of violence. And then, just as quickly as the silence had settled, Maria's voice pierced the bubble. Is there a problem with the service, darling? Her words, sweet but laced with venom, cut through the tension. I watched Miho, his face a mask of calm, as he unfolded the receipt beneath the table, keeping his eyes on Maria, his expression unreadable. I should have backed away. I should have gone back to the kitchen, pretend none of this ever happened. But instead, I stood there, frozen, watching the scene unfold in front of me, my future, his future, hanging in the balance. Miho raised his glass, took a slow sip of whiskey, and with a voice so smooth, so controlled, he asked, "Is there a problem here?" Maria's smile didn't falter. But I could see it, the subtle shift in her eyes. The moment she knew something was wrong. She knew, and so did I. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was survival. The room began to spin, and I knew that my life was about to change forever. Miho's gaze never wavered, his hand tightening around his glass. And as he looked at me, really looked at me, I realized something. I had just become a part of something much bigger than I ever expected. And in that moment, I knew there was no going back. What do you think Miho is going to do next? Will he protect her or turn on her for getting involved in his dangerous world? Hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will change everything. This is only the beginning, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Every word felt like a dagger to my chest, the air growing colder as the whispers sank deeper into my mind. My heart hammered in my chest as I stood frozen between the rows of wine bottles. My fingers were still gripping the Bordeaux bottle I had been reaching for, but it felt so much heavier now, as if it were filled with the weight of the secret I had just uncovered. Maria Costa's voice echoed through the wine cellar, sharp and precise. She wasn't talking about some meaningless dinner reservation or the weather. She was planning murder. Miho's murder. Her voice danced effortlessly between Italian and Korean, a seamless transition between the languages that only served to chill me further. Once he settles, we'll have a clean shot. Everything's in place, she said, her words cold, calculated. The bar's already taken care of, and the kitchen men are in position. It's time. My breath caught in my throat. The wine cellar felt like a tomb, and I was trapped in it, my legs rooted to the cold, polished floor, my mind racing. How long had this been in the works? How much did I really know about Miho? And why the hell had I gotten involved? The silence of the cellar, the rows of expensive bottles illuminated in soft light, suddenly felt suffocating. I couldn't just stay here, hiding in the shadows, listening to her plot his death like it was nothing more than a casual business transaction. I had to make a choice, but I couldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, my hands shaking with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. Maria's voice continued, her tone filled with satisfaction as she spoke about their plans. But I couldn't listen anymore. My mind was spinning, the full weight of the situation crashing down on me. She was going to kill him. They were going to kill him, and I was standing here, knowing it, helpless, with nothing but the cold, silent rows of wine bottles as my audience. I had to do something. I don't even know how I did it, but my body suddenly moved. My legs carried me backward, stumbling through the narrow space between the shelves. I felt like I couldn't breathe, my chest tight, as if the air itself was being sucked out of the cellar with each step I took. The words, "Your fiancé sold you out," were still fresh in my mind, the note I had written, the touch I had made. But it wasn't enough to just slip the note into his hand. I knew that now. I needed to do more. He deserved to know. I couldn't just walk away. I wasn't a hero, but I couldn't live with myself if I did nothing. I stepped into the dim light of the main floor, my legs unsteady, my mind still in a whirlwind. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses filled the space around me, as if nothing had happened. But I couldn't forget what I had just heard. Maria was planning his death, and somehow I was tangled up in it. My hand was still trembling as I reached into my apron to pull out the receipt. I had written the words in haste, but they were clear, blunt. They had to be. There was no time for nuance. I had done my part, but I wasn't sure it was enough. I needed to make sure Miho knew. The clock was ticking. I glanced toward his table, the two of them still sitting there like nothing was wrong. Maria, her eyes shining with a predatory gleam as she whispered to Miho. And Miho, looking just as calm as ever, the world's most dangerous man, oblivious to the storm brewing right beneath his nose. I couldn't help but notice how alive he looked, how dangerous. I should have been terrified of him. I should have felt that unease that comes with being around someone who could destroy you without a second thought. But I didn't. I felt drawn to him. It was insane. I knew that. But as I made my way back toward his table, my heart pounded harder, louder, in my chest. He was a mafia boss. I was just a waitress. The worlds were never supposed to collide. But here I was, making my way toward the man whose life I'd just threatened to ruin. I couldn't back out now. Miho looked up as I approached, his eyes meeting mine with that cold, calculating stare that I knew so well. But something in those eyes, something I couldn't place, made my breath catch in my throat. He was watching me as if he saw through me, as if he knew I was holding something dangerous in my hands. And maybe he did. Maybe he was playing a game I didn't even understand. But I was about to make my move. I set the wine glass down in front of him, my hands shaking, and I did the one thing every server is taught never to do. I touched him. Just for a second, my thumb brushing against the back of his hand, sliding the folded receipt beneath his coaster. I left the note there and walked away, my heart in my throat. Miho's eyes didn't leave me as I turned. He didn't say a word, but I felt it. The weight of his gaze, sharp and penetrating, as if he was waiting to see what I would do next. I thought I had done enough. But as I walked away, the sound of the glass shifting on the table echoed in my mind. Did he know? Did he understand what I had just done? The seconds ticked by, each one stretching longer than the last, and the question that loomed larger in my mind was this: what happens now? If you want to know what happens next, you have to subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss the twists and turns that are coming. Keep watching, because the next chapter will leave you breathless. You won't believe what happens next. My hands were shaking. I could barely feel the glass of Glenfiddich in my palm as I made my way toward Miho's table, each step heavier than the last. The low hum of the restaurant, the clinking of glasses, and the soft murmur of conversation faded into the background as my mind raced, replaying the conversation I had just overheard in the wine cellar. Maria's voice still echoed in my head. Once he settles, we'll have a clean shot. Everything's in place. The weight of those words pressed against my chest, suffocating me. I could feel the cold sweat on my skin, the panic building with each step. How could I just ignore this? How could I pretend I hadn't heard what I had? I had to warn him. Miho had to know the truth. But how? As I neared the table, I found myself hesitating. For a moment, I wondered if I had made the right decision. Was it too late to turn back? Would he even believe me? And if he did, what would he do with the information? I stopped just a few feet away from him, feeling like a deer in headlights. He looked up from his conversation with Maria, his dark eyes locking onto mine with a calm intensity that made my heart skip a beat. He didn't say anything at first. He just stared. But that look, the way his gaze pierced through me like he could see every thought in my head, made my pulse race. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breath. "You're Glenfiddich, sir," I said, my voice sounding too steady, too professional considering the storm brewing inside me. I set the glass down in front of him, my fingers trembling as I did. But as I moved to pull my hand away, I did something I shouldn't have. I touched him. Just for a split second, my thumb brushed against the back of his hand, lingering for a moment longer than necessary. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. The world seemed to slow, every moment dragging, stretching out in the silence between us. And then, without a word, I slid the folded note beneath his coaster. My hand jerked back, my breath hitching in my throat as I watched him. He hadn't moved, hadn't flinched. But there was something in the air now, something unspoken. A quiet understanding between us, like he knew exactly what had just happened. I pulled my eyes away from him, willing myself not to look back. But I could feel his gaze on me, intense and calculating, like he was trying to piece something together. The seconds stretched into eternity, the weight of the moment pressing on my chest, suffocating me. I shouldn't have touched him. I shouldn't have risked everything for a man like him, a man who lived in a world so far beyond mine. But I couldn't stop myself. Something in me, some deep, buried part of me, needed him to know. And then, without a sound, Miho lifted the folded note. I watched as his fingers unfolded the paper, the silence between us thick and heavy. His eyes moved over the words, but his expression never wavered. I could barely breathe as he read, waiting for some kind of reaction, some sign that he understood what I had just done. But there was nothing, just that quiet, calculating gaze. His jaw twitched imperceptibly, the only sign that he had seen the truth. The truth. His fiancée had ordered his death. And now I had placed that truth right in his hands. I felt a tremor of fear in my chest as I watched him, waiting for something, anything from him. But instead, he just set the note down, his fingers brushing against it as if it were nothing. He didn't look at me. He didn't say anything. But the way he was watching me now, it was different. There was a cold, quiet intensity in his eyes that I couldn't escape. My heart was racing, my pulse hammering in my throat, but I couldn't look away. Something in his gaze made me feel like I had just stepped into a world I didn't understand, a world where nothing was as simple as it seemed. He had read the note. He knew. But what would he do next? The silence between us stretched, unbearable and thick. My chest felt tight, my mind spinning. I had just handed him the one thing I never should have. His life was now in my hands. The weight of that truth settled over me like a stone. But as I turned to leave, Miho's voice stopped me. Do you believe in fate, Sarai? My breath caught in my throat as I turned to face him. His eyes were darker now, deeper, like he was seeing something in me I couldn't even comprehend. I had no answer for him. I didn't know what I believed anymore. But I was about to find out. What do you think Miho is planning? Is he going to confront Maria, or will he see Sarai as a threat? Hit subscribe now to see how everything unfolds. The weight of the room felt heavier as I walked away. My feet barely touched the floor, each step a silent echo of the decision I'd just made. I had handed Miho the truth, folded neatly in a small note, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was only the beginning. I couldn't stop thinking about his gaze, the way he looked at me after he read those words. It wasn't shock. It wasn't anger. It was something colder. Something darker. And I wasn't sure whether it was a warning or an invitation. Maria was still sitting there beside him, a picture of civility. I could hear her voice, soft and sweet, as she continued her conversation with Miho, but it felt disconnected, like she was in another world. She had no idea what was happening in the air between them. The space between them had shifted, and she didn't even notice. Miho, though. He was a different story. He hadn't reacted immediately, but I knew better than to think he wasn't processing everything. That calm, controlled demeanor of his, it was only the surface. Beneath it, I could feel the wheels turning. The calculating mind behind those dark eyes was already planning his next move. As I reached the bar, my hands still trembling, I forced myself to focus on the task at hand. The drink orders were coming in, the rhythm of the restaurant still carrying on, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. But I couldn't stop the thought that kept running through my mind. What happens next? Miho's eyes flickered toward me as I poured the wine, and for a moment, I swore I could feel the weight of his gaze on my back. I didn't turn around to look at him. I couldn't. I had already given him the truth, and now it was out of my hands. I could hear the murmur of conversation from the table, Maria's laughter, forced, insincere, filling the space between us. She didn't notice it, but Miho did. He was still watching me. I could feel it. Without warning, I heard the soft vibration of my phone in my apron pocket. The sudden noise in the quiet atmosphere caught me off guard, and for a moment, I froze. Was it him? Had he decided what to do with the information? I took the phone out, glancing at the screen. It was a message from an unknown number. We need to talk. It's urgent. Now. My pulse spiked. I didn't need to ask who it was. I already knew. It was him. Miho. Before I could process the message, I turned my attention back to the table. Maria was still laughing, unaware of the storm brewing in Miho's mind. But Miho was different. He was always calculating. And I knew he had already made his decision. Miho lifted his glass slowly, taking a sip of the whiskey, his eyes still locked on Maria. But the flicker in his gaze told a different story. The calm was gone. His fingers tightened around the glass, his jaw tightening ever so slightly. It was a subtle shift, but it was there. He knew. He knew she had betrayed him. And the truth was, the game was about to change. His hand reached for his phone. With practiced precision, he typed a message, his eyes never leaving Maria's face. She was oblivious, lost in her role as the perfect fiancé. But Miho wasn't fooled. He knew exactly what was going on. I turned away, my heart racing. I needed to leave. To get away from this chaos. But I couldn't. Not yet. I had no idea what Miho was planning, but I was certain of one thing, he wasn't going to let this betrayal slide. I watched as he put the phone down, his fingers lingering on the screen for a moment longer than necessary. Then, without a word, he looked up. His eyes met mine across the room, a silent understanding passing between us. He knew I knew. And I knew, without a doubt, that the storm was coming. Miho stood up from the table, his movements slow, deliberate. He didn't glance at Maria, not once. His focus was entirely on me. My heart hammered in my chest as he started walking toward me, each step heavy with purpose. "Don't move," he said softly, his voice low but commanding. I froze, unable to look away. The restaurant, the people around us, all faded into the background. It was just Miho and me now. He was coming. And I had no idea what he would do next. Would he trust me? Or had I just sealed my fate? You won't believe what happens next. Click subscribe now, because the next twist is something you won't see coming. This story is far from over. You're not ready for what Miho has planned next, and I can't wait to show you. The air felt thicker than usual. The clink of glasses, the murmur of conversations, it all faded into the background as I walked past Miho's table, delivering the drinks. I could feel my pulse in my throat, the weight of the secret I'd just revealed, pressing down on me like a heavy stone. My hands shook, but I forced myself to appear composed as I went about my job. But inside, my mind was racing. I didn't know what I'd expected. Maybe a slap of disbelief or even rage from Miho when he read my note. But he hadn't reacted like that at all. He'd simply read it, his eyes flickering with something dark and knowing before he returned his gaze to Maria. And then, nothing. Just silence. But there was something in the air now, a tension I couldn't ignore. The room was still, too still. I noticed it first in the corners of my eyes, small, almost imperceptible movements, but they were there. The bodyguards scattered around the room, making themselves invisible but very much present. The way they subtly shifted, positioning themselves closer to the exits. The glances exchanged between the men near the kitchen. It wasn't just a regular dinner service anymore. Something was about to happen. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. But I knew one thing: I couldn't just stand by. Not when I had already crossed the line. Miho's eyes found me again. This time, there was no questioning, no surprise. His gaze was steady, focused, and piercing, locking onto mine with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. My heart skipped a beat. He knew. I could see it in the way his lips barely parted as he tilted his head slightly toward the back of the restaurant, his silent command clear. It was like he was reading my mind. Without a word, he was asking me to follow him. But why? Why was he doing this? And why did I feel like my fate had already been sealed the moment I slipped that note into his hand? I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to walk away. To pretend like I hadn't seen anything, like I wasn't the one who sent the warning. But the look in Miho's eyes told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't asking for help, he was giving me a choice. A choice that, for the first time in my life, felt like it mattered. The weight of the moment settled over me, and I knew what I had to do. I turned, leaving the bar behind, and walked toward him, each step feeling heavier than the last. As I passed the kitchen entrance, I could see the bodyguards' eyes flickering toward me, their stares sharp and cold. It was as if they were silently telling me that there was no turning back. This was it. The moment that would change everything. Miho stood, his tall frame towering over the table. He didn't look at Maria, didn't say a word to her. She was still talking, her voice soft and sugary, unaware of the storm that was coming. But Miho was already moving, his gaze locked on me, as if I was the only thing in the room that mattered. He stepped away from the table, his hand brushing the back of his suit as he took a few steps toward the back. I followed without hesitation, my heart racing in my chest. As we passed through the kitchen, I could feel the eyes of the men on us. The silence was deafening now. There was a storm brewing just outside these walls, and I couldn't help but wonder if I was about to be caught right in the middle of it. Miho led me down a narrow corridor, away from the prying eyes of the restaurant's guests. His pace was quick, calculated. It felt like we were moving through a maze, through darkness, through shadows. His presence was suffocating, but it was also magnetic. Finally, we reached a back room, and Miho stopped just inside the door. He didn't turn around immediately. His broad back was facing me, and for a moment, All I could hear was my own breathing. "You shouldn't have done it," he said, his voice calm, almost emotionless. I flinched at the coldness in his tone. "I didn't have a choice," I whispered, my throat tightening. "You needed to know. I couldn't just." "No," he cut me off, turning to face me now. His eyes were dark, unreadable. "You had a choice. You made it. And now." He stepped closer, closing the space between us. His presence was overwhelming, but I couldn't look away. "Now you're in this. Whether you want to be or not." My pulse quickened, fear gnawing at the pit of my stomach. "What are you going to do?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, his gaze flickered down to my hands, still trembling, before locking onto my face again. "I don't know. But you're in deeper than you think." I took a step back, my head spinning. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I was just trying to survive," he interrupted again. "Everyone is trying to survive, Sarai. You think you're the only one caught in this game." He shook his head, frustration evident in his voice. "You think you can just walk away now?" My chest tightened at the way he said my name, like it held weight, like it meant something more than it ever had before. "I don't want this, Miho. I didn't ask for this." A flicker of something crossed his face. Anger, maybe, but also something else. Regret? Sadness? I couldn't tell. "Neither did I," he muttered, his voice low. And then, just like that, the door swung open. Before I could process what was happening, the door slammed open, and I felt my heart stop. A tall figure stood in the doorway, a gun in hand. Miho didn't flinch. He didn't even move. But I felt the cold edge of the situation settling in. Were we too late? Everything I had just learned, everything I had just uncovered, felt like it was crashing down around me. I didn't know who was coming for us. But I knew one thing, this wasn't over. And my life would never be the same again. You feel that tension? That pit in your stomach? It's only going to get worse. We're in this together, and we need to get out. My heart was still racing as Miho led me through the narrow hallway to the private back room. The tension was thick, and the silence was suffocating. Every step felt heavier, every breath sharper. I could feel the weight of the decision I had made just hours ago still pressing on me, but there was no turning back now. I thought I had seen everything, heard everything, but this was different. Miho didn't say a word as he opened the door to the room, and for a split second, all I could do was stand there, frozen, as if the world had stopped spinning around me. My chest tightened, but there was no time to back out now. Inside, Maria was standing near the table, her back turned to us. She looked like the picture of composure, her shoulders stiff, her face the perfect mask of calm. But I could feel it. There was something bubbling beneath the surface. A storm was coming. Miho closed the door behind us with a soft click, and I caught the subtle change in his posture. His shoulders squared, his expression hardening like stone. He stepped forward, and I followed him, instinctively feeling the weight of the moment press down even harder. Maria didn't turn around at first. She was playing it cool, like this was just another day. But I could hear her breathing just a little too fast. She wasn't as in control as she wanted to appear. "Maria," Miho's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it now. "I know everything." She finally turned to face him, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear? Guilt? No. It was something far colder. Her lips curved into a tight smile, but there was no warmth behind it. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice smooth, a little too smooth. Miho took a step closer, his voice dropping, every word laced with controlled rage. "The murder. The betrayal. The fact that you've been playing me this whole time. All for power. For control." Maria's eyes flashed, and for the first time, I saw her mask crack. The smugness, the confidence she had been clinging to, started to dissolve like acid on metal. She took a step back, trying to hold on to her composure, but it was slipping away. "You think I didn't know?" Miho continued, his tone dark and low. "You think I couldn't see the way you've been pulling the strings all along? You think I didn't notice the way you've been playing both sides?" Maria's lips trembled, but she quickly forced them into a thin line, the mask back in place. "It wasn't like that, Miho. This was always about loyalty, about power, about securing our family's future. I could hear the desperation in her voice now, the cracks widening as she tried to hold it together. But I also heard something else, a coldness, a hunger for control that went deeper than anything I had ever understood. Miho's eyes narrowed, his voice turning icy. Loyalty? Is that what this is to you? Loyalty? You don't know the first thing about loyalty. Maria took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. You have no idea what it's like, Miho. What it's like to live with the weight of expectations. The weight of family. You were always sheltered, always protected. I had to do what I had to do to survive. Her words hit like a slap in the face, but Miho didn't flinch. He just stared at her with a quiet intensity that spoke volumes. I don't care what you did to survive, he said, his voice colder than I had ever heard it. What matters now is what you've done to destroy everything I've worked for. What you've done to destroy us. Maria's eyes flashed, and for a moment, I thought she might strike out, but instead, she laughed short, bitter, and empty. You never saw it, did you? She sneered. You never saw what was really happening right in front of you. The whole time, you were the puppet. And I was the one holding the strings. Miho didn't respond immediately, his expression unreadable. The silence between them stretched like a taut wire, and I felt the weight of the words sink into my chest. And then, just like that, he made his decision. It wasn't a loud moment or a dramatic one. It was just quiet, cold, calculated. Without warning, Miho reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out his phone. He held it in front of Maria, showing her a text message, the words flashing across the screen. Your betrayal was never going to stay hidden, he said, his voice steady, but there was a deadly edge now. You've made your move, Maria. And now I'm going to make mine. Her eyes darted to the phone, and I saw her face pale as she read the message. Her body stiffened, and I knew. She knew. It was over. Miho didn't wait for a response. He simply turned toward me, his eyes softening for a moment, but there was still something cold beneath it. He had made his choice. And now there was no turning back. I didn't know if I was relieved or terrified. Or maybe both. I looked over at Maria, her face falling, the realization sinking in that everything she had worked for was slipping through her fingers. The cold, calculated woman who had been pulling the strings was now the one who was trapped. Miho turned to leave, and I followed him, unable to stop myself from wondering what came next. What did he plan to do? What was this decision going to cost us all? But just as I stepped into the hallway, Miho's voice stopped me. I need you to understand something, Sarai, he said, his voice low and serious. The game we're playing? It doesn't allow for mercy. It never has. I swallowed hard, the weight of his words settling over me like a heavy blanket. Was I ready for this? Was I ready for the consequences of the choice I'd made? And what the hell had I just walked into? Before I could process it all, a knock came at the door. I froze. Miho's eyes flickered to me, and in an instant, his calm demeanor was gone. He was all business again, his jaw tightening. This wasn't a knock for a friendly chat. This was something else entirely. Stay here, he ordered, his voice cold and authoritative. I didn't move. I couldn't. Who was on the other side of that door? And what were they about to do to all of us? This is only the beginning. Do you feel that? That cold rush of adrenaline? It's just getting started. This world of lies, betrayal, and violence isn't finished with us yet. Subscribe now because you do not want to miss the storm that's about to break. This is a game where everyone plays for keeps and no one walks away unscathed. What happens next will shake everything. Are you ready for the truth? The heavy door clicks shut behind us, and the instant the sound fades, Miho's eyes lock onto mine. It's like he's waiting for me to speak first, to explain myself, to offer up whatever excuse I might have for getting tangled up in a mess so much bigger than me. But I don't. I can't. The weight of what I've just learned hangs over us both, the air thick with tension. His voice is calm, but I know better than to take it for weakness. What did you overhear, Sarai? Miho asks, his eyes scanning me for any sign of a lie. It's unnerving how quickly his calm demeanor switches to something far more calculating. I feel like I'm being examined, dissected, all at once. My mouth is dry. My heart is thumping like a drum in my chest. I can't breathe. I can't think straight. Everything around me feels so unreal. I heard enough. I finally manage, my voice shaky. Enough to know that Maria's been lying to you. Enough to know you're in danger. Miho steps closer, his presence overwhelming. He doesn't raise his voice, but every word cuts through the room. Danger, huh? And you think this is something you can walk away from? Something you can just forget? His gaze softens for a moment, but it's brief, almost imperceptible, like he's calculating something in his head. I try to stand my ground, but my knees feel like they might give out any second. I never asked for this, Miho, I say, my voice faltering as I try to make sense of the chaos inside my mind. I'm just a waitress. I didn't sign up for any of this. He watches me closely, his eyes scanning every inch of my face like he's trying to read my soul. You may not have asked for this, he murmurs, almost to himself, but you're already in it, Sarai. You know more than you should. And now, you're a part of it. His words hit me harder than I want to admit. The reality of what I'm involved in sinks in deeper, sharper. This isn't just some side drama. This is dangerous. The kind of dangerous where you can't just walk away. And I know, deep down, that Miho's right. I'm already too far gone. I don't have an answer for him. All I can do is stare at him, wondering what comes next. The silence stretches on, unbearable, suffocating, until Miho speaks again. You're not just some waitress to me, Sarai, he says, his voice lower now, a hint of something dark in his tone. You've shown me something. Something I didn't expect. I take a shaky breath, trying to steady myself. What do you mean? Miho steps even closer, his eyes never leaving mine. For a second, I swear I can feel his breath on my skin. I mean, he continues, his voice low and dangerous, that you could be more than you think. More than just a woman who serves drinks and cleans tables. You're smart. You're observant. You're not scared to speak your mind. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I never expected him to say that. Never in a million years did I think I'd be anything more than the girl who poured his wine and smiled at his every request. But now? Now, I'm being seen, truly seen, and it feels like both a curse and a gift. But this isn't a game, Sarai, Miho adds, his voice turning cold again. I don't know what you think you're getting into, but make no mistake. There's no turning back once you've crossed this line. His words cut through me, but there's something else too, something that sparks in my chest. It's fear, yes, but it's also power. The feeling of being in control, even if just for a moment. It's intoxicating. And terrifying. I open my mouth to respond, but the words don't come. Instead, I take a step back, my mind swirling with possibilities. Miho might have just handed me a dangerous key, a piece of information that could change everything for both of us. But is this really a chance I want to take? Am I willing to walk deeper into this mess? Or am I about to make the biggest mistake of my life? Miho watches me closely, his eyes never leaving mine. He seems to know exactly what I'm thinking, he always does. I need to know where your loyalties lie, Sarai, he says, his voice as steady as ever. Because this game doesn't have room for half measures. You're either with me, or you're not. There's no middle ground. The weight of his words settles in like a stone in my stomach. I can feel the truth of them sinking deep into my bones. Whatever choice I make, it's going to change everything. And there's no way to go back. Do you understand? Miho asks, his voice firm, unyielding. I nod slowly, though I'm not sure if I'm nodding to agree or simply because it's the only thing I can do. My mind races as I think about the road ahead, the danger, the uncertainty, and the constant fear that I might be walking into a trap I can't escape. But before I can say anything, the door behind me creaks open. A figure steps into the room, and for a second, my heart skips a beat. Who is this? And what do they want? Miho's eyes flicker toward the door, his expression hardening instantly. Without a word, he moves toward the intruder, his body language sending a clear message. Whatever is about to happen, it won't be pretty. And then, as if the universe is mocking me, a voice I never expected to hear calls out from the doorway. Sarai. My blood runs cold. It's Maria. She's here. And she's not alone. I freeze. Miho's eyes darken with rage, and I can feel the tension in the room escalate to a breaking point. Maria has made her move, and I have no idea how this is all going to play out. Is she here to finish what she started? Or is this just the beginning of something far worse? This is the point of no return. The moment when everything changes. If you think you've seen it all, trust me, you haven't. The danger's only just begun. This story is about to take a dark turn, and you won't want to miss it. Subscribe now, because what happens next will leave you breathless. This is your last chance to get in on the action. Will you stay, or will you walk away? The choice, just like Sarai's, is in your hands. I'm still reeling from the last few minutes. The weight of everything that's happened, everything I've learned, feels like it's pressing down on my chest, suffocating me. And yet, here I am, standing in a room with Miho, staring at him as if I've known him my whole life. But I don't. I don't know him at all. His presence in the room is overwhelming. He's calm, but the kind of calm that hides something lethal underneath. I can't help but feel that whatever happens next, it's going to change me forever. He's standing there, his hands resting on the table, his eyes never leaving mine. The silence stretches between us like a tightrope, each of us waiting for the other to break it. I'm the one who finally speaks. What do you want from me, Miho? His lips twitch, a barely there smile that doesn't reach his eyes. I want you to make a choice, Sarai. A choice you can't undo. I swallow hard, my pulse quickening. My mind races, my heart beats so loudly it feels like it's vibrating through my entire body. What choice? What could he possibly want from me that would make me choose to be involved in all of this? You have something I need, he continues, his voice quiet but steady, like he's saying the most obvious thing in the world. Information. But more than that, you have something that's rare in my world. Courage. I stare at him, trying to make sense of his words, but all I feel is a deep, growing unease. Courage? I manage to say, my voice shaking. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Miho steps closer, his eyes hard, unwavering. In this world, Sarai, loyalty is everything. It's the difference between life and death. And right now, you have a choice. You can walk away from all of this, forget what you know, and try to go back to your normal life. Or... He pauses, his gaze darkening, the weight of his words sinking in. Or you can stay. And if you stay, you will be a part of this world. My world. And your life will never be the same. I can feel the gravity of his words in my bones, and the truth of them stings. I've seen the kind of world he's talking about. A world where secrets are currency, where power is everything and betrayal is punished without mercy. But at the same time, there's something thrilling about it. The adrenaline that pulses through my veins when he looks at me like this, the way his presence demands respect and attention, it's all so intoxicating. But know this, Sarai, Miho's voice breaks through my thoughts, and I look up to find him staring at me with an intensity that chills me. Once you're in, there's no leaving. No way out. You'll either survive this world or you won't. I try to breathe, but it feels like the air has turned to lead in my lungs. What do you mean by that? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. His gaze hardens. I'm offering you a chance to help me take down Maria. She betrayed me, and she betrayed us all. I want her gone. I need your help to make that happen. But there's a price. This isn't a job you can just walk away from. You'll owe me, Sarai. You'll owe me loyalty. I'm silent for a moment, processing everything he said. The danger, the power, the possibility. I feel my pulse quicken as I think about the offer in front of me. The choice he's giving me isn't an easy one. But there's no going back now. I look at him, my heart racing. And if I help you, what do I get? Miho steps closer, his presence looming over me like a storm cloud ready to break. You get power. You get control. You get a place in this world. A world where loyalty is everything, where betrayal is a death sentence, but where survival is a luxury few ever experience. I feel the weight of his words sink into my chest. The temptation is real. I've spent my entire life being nothing more than a waitress, a girl who's barely scraped by. But now I'm being offered a seat at the table, a chance to change everything. To take control of my life in ways I've only dreamed about. But at what cost? Miho watches me carefully, his expression unreadable. The choice is yours, Sarai. But make it carefully. Because once you cross this line, there's no turning back. I look at him, and for the first time since I walked into this world, I realize something. I can't walk away anymore. I'm already too deep, already too far gone. And I'm not sure I want to leave. I'll help you, I say, the words slipping from my mouth before I can stop them. I'll help you take her down. Miho's eyes gleam with something darker now, something dangerous. Good. You'll never regret this, Sarai. But as I stand there, a part of me knows something I can't ignore. I've just made a deal with the devil himself, and there's no telling what that will cost me. But I'll take that risk. Because in this world, you either survive or you die. And I'm not ready to die just yet. Just as Miho steps closer, a shadow crosses the door, and a voice I never expected to hear calls out from the hallway. Sarai. My heart skips a beat. I recognize the voice. It's Maria. And she's standing there, knowing exactly what I've just agreed to. Do you feel that? The tension, the power, the uncertainty? This isn't just a game anymore. Sarai's in too deep, and the stakes are higher than ever. Will she survive this dangerous game, or will it cost her everything? You don't want to miss what happens next. Subscribe now, because what comes next will keep you on the edge of your seat, and you won't believe the twists that are coming. Don't miss out on the ride. This is just the beginning. The night is colder than I expect, but the chill creeping under my skin has nothing to do with the weather. The tension in the air could freeze a person solid. Miho stands beside me, his face unreadable, his presence as heavy as the weight of the decision we've made. This is it, the final hour. Everything we've been running toward, everything we've been avoiding, is about to come crashing down. Maria's betrayal, her cold manipulation, her calculated moves to steal Miho's empire. It all comes down to tonight. I can feel it in my bones. The silence between us feels suffocating as we stand in the dimly lit hallway of the mansion. Outside, the world is unaware of the storm brewing within these walls. Miho doesn't say a word. He doesn't need to. I know the stakes. We both do. Maria is about to make her move, and when she does, it'll be the end of one life and the beginning of another. But which life will it be? Mine? Miho's? Or Maria's? I glance at him. He's calm. Too calm. His hands are steady as he adjusts the cufflinks on his shirt, the faintest hint of a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. He's not afraid. Not even close. You ready? He asks, his voice low, a razor-sharp edge to it. I nod, swallowing the lump in my throat. Ready as I'll ever be. I think back to everything that's led me here. From the first time I met Miho, everything about him pulled me in. His power, his intensity, his darkness. But it wasn't until the moment I sent him that note in the restaurant, warning him about Maria, that I knew I was in deeper than I ever intended to be. And now? Now I'm standing beside him, ready to face whatever comes. You know, Sarai, Miho's voice cuts through the silence, his eyes still locked ahead. There's no turning back now. Whatever happens tonight, it changes everything. His words hit me harder than I expected. It's true. If we survive this, I'll be a part of this world forever. There's no way out once you're in, no way to walk away from the kind of power Miho holds. It's tempting, terrifying, and, in some sick way, exhilarating. Before I can respond, the door to the back room opens with a creak, and I hear footsteps. Maria. She steps into the room, flanked by two men I don't recognize, their expressions cold and unreadable. But it's her eyes that grab me. The same eyes I've seen manipulate everyone in her life, now burning with hatred and fear. She knows what's coming. She knows this is the end for her. Well, Maria says, her voice dripping with venom. Look who's finally showing their true colors. I can't help but let out a shaky breath. The woman who once wore the mask of a loving fiancé, the woman who thought she could control everything, is now standing in front of us, her walls crumbling. Her grip on this world is slipping. Maria, Miho says, his voice calm but filled with ice. This ends tonight. You betrayed me, and there's no coming back from that. Her lip curls in disgust, but I see the fear in her eyes now, barely masked by her anger. "You think you can stop this? You think you've won?" She spits, her hands shaking. "You're nothing but a pawn in this game, Miho. You always were." Miho takes a slow step forward, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm the one who controls the game now. And you, Maria, you're out." It happens in an instant. Her eyes widen, and before anyone can react, she pulls a gun from beneath her coat, aiming it at Miho with trembling hands. The room feels like it's frozen for a moment, and I can't breathe. My heart is pounding in my chest, each beat feeling like it could be my last. But Miho is quicker. Before she can pull the trigger, he's already disarmed her, twisting her wrist and sending the gun skittering across the floor. The two men with her make a move, but they're not fast enough either. Miho's men are already there, taking them down in a flurry of movement. Everything happens so fast, and yet, the seconds seem to stretch on forever. Maria stumbles back, her face pale with shock. Her perfect facade is shattered, and I see it, the fear in her eyes. She knows. She knows the game is over. "You thought you could control everything, Maria," Miho says, his voice low but filled with an undeniable certainty. "But you underestimated me. You underestimated her." He nods slightly toward me, and I feel a strange rush of power. Maria's eyes flicker to me, rage mixing with disbelief. "You're nothing, Sarai. Just a waitress, just a pawn. You'll never survive this." I stand tall, the words stinging but fueling something inside of me. "Maybe, but I'm still here." Miho steps forward, his hand resting on my shoulder in a show of solidarity. "She's not just a pawn. She's a part of this now. And that's something you'll never understand." The silence that follows is deafening. Maria knows she's lost. She knows she's finished. But as Miho gestures for his men to take Maria away, something shifts in me. A new understanding, a new place in this dangerous world. And for the first time, I realize that nothing will ever be the same again. As Maria is dragged out of the room, I catch a glimpse of something that freezes my blood. A shadow in the doorway. A figure I never expected to see again. And in that moment, I know. This is far from over. I never imagined I'd find myself in the middle of something like this. The power, the danger, it's all real, and I'm in too deep to turn back now. But I don't know what comes next. I don't know who can be trusted or who will betray me next. If you're still with me, if you want to know what happens next, you need to subscribe now. The silence in the aftermath of Maria's defeat feels heavier than anything I've experienced in my life. It's like the world has held its breath, and now, with the violence finally settling, it doesn't quite know what to do with itself. The Mafia world Miho controls is still reeling, and I can feel the chaos in the air, even though it's not spoken aloud. The power he now holds, after the storm we just weathered, is undeniable. He's untouchable now, with his enemies vanquished, but what about me? I stand by the window of Miho's office, my hands pressed against the cool glass, watching the city below, but not seeing it. It's as though I'm seeing the ghost of the woman I used to be before this whole nightmare began. Before I became tangled in Miho's world. Before I slipped that note into his hand. Now, everything feels different. The weight of what I've done, what I've allowed myself to become, is sinking in. I'm no longer just a waitress, a nameless face among the crowd. No, I'm far too deep now. I've crossed lines, and there's no going back. The woman I once was seems like a distant memory. The innocence I thought I still had feels foolish now, like a fragile thing that could be shattered with a single word. But it's not just me I'm thinking about. It's the pull I feel toward Miho, the way his world has become something I can't quite escape. I didn't expect this bond. A connection forged in the fire of betrayal and blood. It's wrong. It's dangerous. And yet, here I am, caught in the web he's woven. And it's not just his power that keeps me here. No, it's something deeper. It's the way he looks at me like I'm someone he can trust, someone who has proven herself worthy of his loyalty. But trust in this world is a dangerous thing. It's not the same as love, but it's just as deadly. Miho's voice cuts through my thoughts, bringing me back to the present. You're thinking too much, he says, his voice low and smooth, but there's a hint of something more behind it, a trace of concern or maybe something darker. Don't. I turned to face him, my pulse quickening just from the sound of his voice. The man who has become both my salvation and my damnation. I don't know what to make of him anymore, but I know one thing for certain. He's not someone you can walk away from once you've stepped inside his world. I can't help it, I reply, my voice shaky despite my best efforts to control it. Everything's changed, mijo. I'm not the same person anymore. He doesn't move, but his gaze sharpens, the intensity in his eyes never wavering. No one stays the same in this world, Sarai. You're either a part of it, or you're out. You chose to be in. Don't start questioning that now. I feel the truth in his words like a weight settling in my chest. He's right. I made my choice when I sent him that note. I crossed that line and I can't unmake the decision. But the cost of survival in his world is heavier than I ever imagined. There's blood on my hands now and I can't pretend I don't know it. I didn't ask for this, I say quietly, my voice breaking despite myself. I didn't ask for any of this. Miho steps toward me, his expression unreadable. None of us do, Sarai. You think I wanted to become this? He gestures to the room, to the empire he's built, but I know it's more than that. He's not just talking about the business. He's talking about the price he's paid to get here. I can feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. The bond between us is undeniable now, and yet, it's a bond forged in darkness. I've seen what he's capable of, what he's willing to do to protect himself, his empire, and the people who fall under his sway. And I know, deep down, I'm one of those people now. I'm not just an outsider anymore. Miho's next words come as a whisper, but they cut through the air like a blade. You're mine now, Sarai. And you need to understand what that means. There's no going back. His words hang in the air, thick and heavy, and for a moment, I'm frozen. I'm trapped in a world where survival means surrendering pieces of myself, where the only way forward is down a path I never wanted to walk. But as much as I want to resist, I can't. Because in this world, survival means paying the price. And I'm not sure I'm willing to stop paying. And just when I think I can't sink any deeper into this world, Miho pulls out a folded piece of paper from his pocket. A note. My note. The one I thought was lost forever. He looks at me, a dangerous smirk playing on his lips. You thought you were just a waitress, didn't you? He murmurs, his voice dark with promise. You're so much more than that, Sarai. And you're going to learn just how deep this rabbit hole goes. I didn't know how deep this world went until I was already falling. Miho's power, his control, it's like nothing I've ever experienced. But at what cost? What's going to happen to me now that I'm in too deep? Will I survive this, or will it consume me? If you want to know what happens next, and if you want to see just how far this goes, you need to subscribe now. Because this isn't just a story. It's my life, and you're about to witness everything unfold, one dangerous step at a time. Don't miss what happens next. You won't want to.